Hi, my name is Mr. Anderson, and I am mean to people on the internet. I'm always very polite about it, though. I just tend to ask difficult questions and insist on the answers. This is the third installment, or not installment so much as version, of the conclusion of my first debate with Dr. Kent Hovind, where I kind of corner him and get some good admissions out of him. Now, if you've seen the other two versions of this, we focused more on sort of what happened. And here we're going to, it's going to be a little bit longer. You're going to get a little bit more of the debate, and you're also going to get me popping in and out a lot more often and telling you sort of what's going on and breaking the technique down a little bit more. So this is going to be a bit more of a technical review. It's going to be a little bit different from the other two. And I'm very interested to find out which ones you guys like better. Do you like the ones that are the kind of the quick hits, or do you like this sort of more in-depth analytical style? So once again, here's the climax of my debate with Dr. Kent Hovind, the first debate. I hope you enjoy. Oh, I also should say, for those of you who have just finished watching the other two videos and want to skip to the parts that are new, just go to about the 3-minute mark, and then you'll be all right.
We're going to have to move on,
and let's just do this. You know what, sir? I want you to lay it on me. Ask me your question about whether I'm related to an amoeba.
I did already. The textbooks in school have these family trees. Do you believe this is accurate, that all life forms came from a single-celled creature like an amoeba? Do you believe that's an accurate representation of what we know scientifically?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. That's not a definite answer. Your Honor, make a definite answer. So, Your Honor,
look,
the witness is saying he believes the evidence shows that he's related to an amoeba. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Wow. Okay. So there, you got your question you wanted. Now,
all right.
Where's the evidence that an amoeba?
I take it from your scoffing that that you think that answer is ridiculous. Is that fair?
It is extremely ridiculous. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you think it's ridiculous because you think that a single-celled organism and a multi-celled organism, those two things are super different, right?
That's one of many reasons why it's ridiculous.
It's one of them. That's fine. One of the reasons. Another one of the reasons is because nothing brings forth other than according to its kind, right?
That's all anybody's ever observed. Yes, sir.
Right. So, for example, there are zero, nada examples of multicellular creatures that spontaneously have some portion of their anatomy suddenly turn into single-cell creatures. Not one arm, not one leg, not one cell, right? What I'm asking you is if, let's say my arm suddenly collapsed into being a puddle of goo because all of the cells went back to being single-celled creatures, right? That would be an example of my arm turning into a different kind, right? You're not going to look at that puddle of goo that's just a bunch of single-celled creatures and say like, oh, that's just human, are you?
Well, your arm could certainly be disintegrated into single cells. Each one would have 46 chromosomes if they're still alive. They would still be recognizable as coming from a human, but each one is not a human. Is your arm a human? No, your whole body is considered human. Again, it's definition of terms. What exactly is a human? But no, all human cells, except for sperm and eggs, have 46 chromosomes. They have 23.
Right.
And so
regardless of the fact that they're otherwise genetically similar to humans, if all of the cells in my arm just decided we're gonna go back to being single-celled organisms, they would then be a different kind, right? A single-celled organism that's living as a single-celled organism, whether or not it has other genetic similarities to humans, that's a different kind, right?
Well, if all the parts of a car fell apart and I found a bolt on the highway and said, is this a car? Well, this is part of a car, but this is not a car. Together they make a car. All your cells together make an arm. So would we still call each cell an arm? I don't think so, Your Honor.
All right. So the answer to my question is yes.
No, it was.
Is that why I'm asking you?
So this is a good technique where you make sure that you're getting clear answers to your questions. When somebody gives you kind of a rambling, semi-coherent answer that seems or purports to answer the question but is not clear, you can just say, so look, in a word, that whole jibber jabber was yes, right, or was no, or whatever. And often it is. In this case, Dr. Hovind was deliberately just trying to obfuscate, and it actually wasn't yes or no. It was just kind of a babble. And so it's like, well, so then now we've clarified that you didn't answer my question, and we can go back and we can make sure you do, right?
If your arm turned into a pile of single cells, would each
living
one be
as single cells, right? Living as
living?
single cells.
Now, that living as single cells bit is an important clarification, because it gets around the objection that he's trying to make at the place that he's trying to go, which is that, look, parts of you are not you. And so if you break off a part of you, then that doesn't become a different kind. It's just a part of you. But that's not the same thing when that thing then goes off and it starts doing its own thing in a different way, and it starts dividing and living in a different way. Even though it was a part of me, it's not just still a part of me, because it's gone off and it's doing its own thing. And so that distinction is important.
Well, I don't think they could, but
I know
again,
you
you're off in fairy tale land. This doesn't happen.
In the SpongeBob, I just want to know if that happened, right? If that happened, then that would count, right?
I think we would be able to recognize these cells came from a human. Like you can probably recognize
If
that.
you can recognize where they came from, I want to know what they are right now. They're a different kind, right?
No, they're single cells that came from a human.
So you're okay. Well, then why is it ridiculous for me to say that I'm related to an amoeba if you're saying that I am the same kind as a bunch of single cells?
See, here what I've done is I've tipped my hand one way, and I've shown him what the consequences are of saying that it's not a different kind, because then what we have is two very, very different animals that are the same kind, one of which is multicellular and one of which is single cellular, and he doesn't want me to possibly be the same kind as something that's similar to an amoeba. And so that's why he is now, although he doesn't say this, right, it's now in his head that, okay, well, I can't go that way, so I have to figure out a way to go the other way, which is, in actual fact, the way that I want him to go. And so that's kind of what's happening behind the scenes in this moment.
I didn't say that. You are made up of probably several trillion single cells that are each really complex, and together they make you. And so that's, I think, amazing. And if they went back to single cells, we would call you dead.
Right. So, sir, let me try and look. If evolution were correct, and a human is just a colony of single-celled organisms that were somehow rounded up and given jobs, then it stands to reason that some of those cells, some of the time, ought to go on strike and just say, we don't want to be part of this human anymore. We want to do our own thing and just go back to being unicellular. But we don't see that, right?
You started off with a false definition that a human is a colony of single cells. I think it's way more complex than that. They are designed to fill their function. The lug nuts on my car are designed to hold on the wheel, So I think each of the parts of your body is specially designed to make a human. But again, we don't observe this happening. And you're going backwards from human to single cell. That's disintegration.
So what?
Let's take it from a single cell to human. Where are the examples?
Let's take it this way. Like, I mean, what does it matter whether I'm going this way or that way? You say that I can't do it either way, right? Are you?
No.
Let me ask you that question then. Are you suggesting to me, sir, that things can change kinds as long as it involves a loss of information? So it's entirely possible for a human to go into being a bunch of single-celled organisms? Are you saying that's possible?
And then this here again is another example of that same technique, where I'm tipping my hand that one way, and showing him that he's got a problem, that is not consistent with his worldview. And I'm suggesting to him that that's not the way that he wants to go. And so he agrees, and he's trying to find sort of a third option, of course. But, when that gets shot down, he's sort of left scrambling with, what position he's going to take, and we'll see how that goes.
I'm saying a human can disintegrate into single cell. Each of the cells would then die because they're designed to work together. They rely on a blood supply that something else is producing. So each cell cannot live by its own. If I cut off a piece of my skin, it won't keep living. It'll, even though.
And if it did, it would be a different kind, right?
I don't know. I'd be cautious with that answer. It doesn't happen.
Right. I know it doesn't happen, sir. You know what?
Well, then
I mean, I might have convinced myself here. I might have convinced myself, but I just want to know, um, if it did happen, that would be a different kind, right?
Oh, right here. Sorry, I got the wrong one. If it did happen, I don't know that it would be a different kind. Again, we're back in La La Land again with fairy tale stories, but
Well,
so
sir, I
what?
think where we are is in moving goalposts. Whenever we establish something, you know, all of a sudden, if I ask you whether anything qualifies, even the most fantastical example, even a cow jumping over the moon, or a an arm collapsing into a puddle of cells, you're not willing to say that that qualifies as a different kind because you're afraid that I'm going to come up with an example that is exactly that.
Okay, well,
You
go
don't
ahead.
have to be afraid of me, sir. Just answer my
Tell us the
questions.
example. The purpose of the debate
No,
is
no,
for you to give.
well, here's the problem, sir. If I give you an example of one of those things, then you're going to say, well, that doesn't count, right? I need you to tell me that it counts before I give you an example. So this fantastical example, right? You think it's, you're pretty you're pretty sure it can never happen, right?
What can never happen?
This
Your arm turned
fantastic.
to.
Yeah, my arm turns into a puddle of goo. You're
Oh,
not worried about that happening, are
I
you? So, I
assure
mean,
you.
what's the problem?
No,
See, this is a moment where a bunch of the prep work that I've been doing over the course of this whole debate's kind of paying off, because he's assuming that every example that I'm giving here is completely hypothetical and completely fantastical, because we spent a great deal of time talking about cows that are the size of Alabama and cows that can jump over the moon or fly or grow gills, and he knows all of those things don't exist. And so he figures this is just another example of something that doesn't exist that I'm talking about for some reason. And so for that reason, he's able to and willing to give an answer, because he's kind of conditioned to not expect it to be a problem, right? And then the other problem, the other thing that he's facing here is that, and I pointed it out to him a few moments earlier, that he's kind of just disagreeing with everything, and no matter what example I give, he's saying, well, that doesn't count. And it's like he's making the task impossible on purpose, and then he's looking unreasonable. So he's sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either he's got to agree that some of these things are reasonable, or he's got to kind of say, well, no, basically nothing is reasonable, because he's just been so difficult for so long that he looks like he's just a contrarian, and so that's kind of one of the horns of the dilemma that he's faced with in this moment.
Sure, it will happen. You will die, and your body will disintegrate into single cells, and then they will all disintegrate into atoms, and you're going to be dust one day.
And in the event that those cells did not immediately disintegrate into other atoms, but started multiplying and living on their own as single-celled creatures, in that SpongeBob world, that would count, right?
Wow. I don't know that that's worth even considering. It doesn't happen. It's not observed.
Well, sir, that's my problem. What your problem is that you have to tell me whether or not it would count.
I'd have to. I have to ask for more time to consider that. I don't think would man
Sir,
call it.
We've had an hour and 10 minutes. Come on. You've had lots of time.
Would some person call it a different kind? Maybe so. Does that qualify as the biblical definition? I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. According to you, you're the expert. You're the one with the doctorate.
Okay. Let me tell you this. Would those single cells of your arm be able to reproduce?
Yeah, they're able to reproduce. In this SpongeBob example, they're able to
and turn back to an arm.
No. They're not going to turn back into an arm. They're going to continue to be single-celled organisms from now on.
Yeah. So you're asking me if your arm disintegrated, would the single cells be a different kind? Yeah. By our definition of life forms, I guess we would say a single cell is a different life form than an arm on a human being. Mm-hmm. But they're not able to bring forth.
Right. No, the cell wouldn't be able to bring forth with the human, obviously. It would be bringing forth just by dividing, right? Like a prokaryote, or not a prokaryote, single-cell organism.
You said earlier going either way, going from multicellular to single cellular, disintegrating, is not the same as saying going from single cellular to multicellular. That's never been observed. It's not science.
I don't care. All I care about is whether or not it's a different kind.
See, and this is an example of me forestalling him trying to run to a different subject. Even though that subject is interesting with respect to this whole concept of information, that's not relevant in this debate. And I've made that clear to him that he says that gaining or losing information going either direction is not possible, because in either case that's a change of kind. So it doesn't matter for the purposes of this debate whether or not information exists, and I'm using that against him, right?
So you're telling me, and I just want to nail this down, you're telling me that if cells in my body decided they're not going to cooperate and be part of my body anymore, they're going to do their own thing, they're going to live as single-celled creatures, that's a different kind. Those cells are a different kind, right?
I will give that a qualified yes. To my understanding of your question, Your Honor, I think that is probably a different kind.
Okay. All right. And it wouldn't even have to be the whole limb or whatever that suddenly drops multicellularity. Even if just a single cell were to do it, that'd be enough, right?
I lost a piece of skin cutting the tree down the other day, and it dried up and died. It didn't survive into nothing.
Not my question. So what's the answer to my question?
Try it again.
So,
the question. Please repeat the question.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, I might almost be convincing myself. I mean, so.
This is editing Mr. Anderson here, and I just thought that this was an interesting moment and an interesting point, and you can see the wheels kind of turning in my head here, because I realized that I just got that great admission from him, and I had this whole line of questioning where I was going to continue to chase him down, and I wasn't expecting him to give that admission up even at that point because of the magnitude of it. And so you can see me sort of just stop and think and go, what do I want? What do I need out of this? And adjust kind of on the fly and go, okay, like, what else is it that I want to do here? What else can I make in terms of, how else can I make hay out of this? And you'll see that I sort of take it in a bit of a different direction. I'm not even sure I needed to do that portion either. But you know what, you make the decisions that you make, and a moment's a moment. So, but that's kind of what's going on there. And so for people who are kind of learning to do this themselves, the lesson is sometimes when you get what you want, stop, right? And I stopped soon enough, but I probably could have even stopped sooner.
In scientific terms, to evolutionists, you know what? I'm going to change sides. I'm on your side now, Dr. Hovind. You know what? In scientific terms, evolutionists, if you would expect to see mutations where a multicellular part of the cell gets switched off, the cell reverts back to doing what it would otherwise. Your theory would predict that, but we don't see that, right, Dr. Hovind?
Not only do we don't see it, that's going backwards. Show me that the title of the debate is "Where's an example of something producing other than its kind?" You've given me fairy tale stories for an hour and 20 minutes.
I know. Look, I'm on your team now.
You are, yeah.
Oh, I believe that. No, I'm on. I've switched sides.
I believe you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and if something were to suddenly drop multicellularity, that'd be a different kind, right, sir?
If something would go from multicellular to single-celled, I don't think it would be a life form. I don't think the cells can live like that.
Right.
So you can see at that point, I was still chasing that admission, and I'd already gotten it. So I think at that point, it kind of clicked for me, like, it's time for me to stop, right? I got what I wanted. I don't need to chase it anymore. And also, importantly, there's a real risk to doing that, to continuing once you've gotten an answer that you don't like, to continue to ask that question, because what can happen then is the person might realize what they'd said, and then they clarify and they try and change their answer, and you undo the good work that you did. So luckily enough, that didn't happen here, but that's the reason why we stop when we get what we're looking for.
5 minutes left.
Why are we discussing this fairy tale story?
Because cancer, sir.
Because of an answer?
No, cancer.
Oh, cancer?
Cancer, yes.
Oh, well, I think a lot of diseases that man has, such as cancer, may have a totally different cause than we realize. It may be a deficiency. Like they looked for years, millions of people died of scurvy. Why did God give scurvy? He didn't. You got to have vitamin C to prevent it. Wow, they called them the limeys because they finally brought limes on board. It wasn't God causing scurvy.
Sir,
It
I've
was
just
them not
posted a
eating fruit.
paper. I've just
I think
posted a
I
paper.
think cancer is a deficiency disease in the same
Yeah.
category as scurvy.
No, sir, it's not. Cancer
Okay,
is a mutation of
I believe
cells.
that it is. You can believe what
Well,
you want. Okay.
so, sir, the problem is that cancer is a really good example of a multicellular creature or a cell within a multicellular creature dropping multicellularity because of the mutation of one of 12 genes and then going off on its own and becoming a single-celled creature. So that would
So,
be one kind turning into another kind. And if you'd
so
like
a
to see a scientific paper that says that, I've just posted it in our little chat.
let me understand now. You're saying a cancer cell forming in a body has lost, you say 12 chromosomes? Did
No,
you say?
any one of 12. Any one of 12. The more
Okay.
it loses, the worse the cancer gets.
So if they lose one of 12 chromosomes, the cell becomes cancerous and now
Not
operates on
lose,
its own.
mutation. No, not lose, mutation. Those are the cells that are
Okay.
responsible
It
for
mutates,
cooperation.
it loses information, becomes cancerous, and now it can operate on its own.
That's right. It starts
Okay.
to operate on its own. It starts to grow without regard to the body.
And that is your evidence that an amoeba turned to a whale.
No, that's my evidence that that a multicellular creature brought forth life other than its kind.
So a multicellular creature brought forth a cancer cell,
Hmm.
and therefore evolution is true. We need to teach all
No,
kids
no,
all
no,
this.
not evolution. Where did I say? When did it? That's not the title of the debate. That's not what I have to
Oh,
prove. All I
okay.
have to prove, sir, is I don't have to prove creationism right. I don't have to prove evolution wrong. I should to prove you wrong.
Hold it, hold it. You said you're on my side.
Yeah, I know, but then cancer. I just thought about that,
What happened here? Oh, that's another
Cancer,
SpongeBob story.
yeah,
Okay.
cancer happened.
So the Bible is incorrect.
Well, I'm not saying the Bible is incorrect, sir. I'm just saying you're incorrect, right?
Okay.
2 minutes.
So you were saying, like, look, if it happens outside of the body and then eventually maybe happens outside of anybody, that might be something like you're saying, look, come back to me when you can show that. Unless I see that, I'm not interested. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I would have to point out, for the purpose of this debate or any debate, that it would take quadrillions of changes to go from a single cell creature to a human in all the charts that they show. And
Just
giving
12.
one, good point. I'll do some research on, is a cancer cell able to live on its own? I'm not aware of any that are. I think they always require a host.
That doesn't have to be a human
And
host.
so really you got a different problem now. But that's an example of going backwards from multicellular, single cellular, not.
So,
Well,
so
the
what?
charts show the family trees. You asked me to ask you condescendingly, do you believe you descended from an amoeba?
Right.
Do you?
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. I think the
Oh, okay.
evidence. I think the evidence suggests that, and I
But
think the reason it's not ridiculous is because if I can turn into a single-celled creature, the idea that a single-celled creature could turn into me is not that crazy.
okay,
I
but you
mean,
said you're on
just to
my
put a
side.
pin in this thing, sir.
Come on now.
So, in the event that we could show that the single-celled creatures lived outside of the body that evolved them, then that would be better evidence. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying I'll do some research on that. I think the answer most people would say so far, if you take a cancer, don't they cut out cancer to save a person's life?
Sure, but they also study cancer to see if they can prevent it. And one of the things they studied was
Right. Oh,
how
yeah.
does it
So
start
when
and
they
why
cut
does
the
it
cancer
start?
out, does it keep living forever? Does it start making more
Uh,
cancerous tumors?
that's a really good question, sir. I'm going to send you another paper to read. And yeah, basically that's what happened.
Okay.
Okay.
I know a bunch of people are now screaming the word Gila at the screen, and a bunch of other people don't know what that means, but we will get there in a subsequent debate, and we'll also talk about some of the other examples that Dr. Hovind should be finding in his research, but of course he doesn't do any research. So you can look forward to that in a future installment.
So I think that's probably pretty much it for tonight, Donnie and Matt.
Yeah.
We've gotten to where we've gotten to where I was hoping to get to for tonight.
Mr. Anderson, if you would like to give a 2-minute closing statement, and then we'll go to Kent, and then we'll jump into Q&A.
Sure. Yeah, I think we've made quite a lot of progress here. We've agreed on a common set of assumptions regarding the world, which focuses the conversation, and we'll be able to use that again. And we're referring to that as the October 13th protocol. We've cleared up some misunderstandings with regard to exactly what Dr. Hovind means when he says that things bring forth after their kind. We got the criteria of morphological change and reproductive isolation. Um, Dr. Hovind's got some papers about cancer that he can read and he can respond to that. Dr. Hovind's also got the counterexample that he came up with respect to the dog, or sorry, the Great Dane and the Chihuahua. I think wolf and Chihuahua would probably have been a better example, but that's something we can talk about some more in another debate. Um, and hopefully you've all been entertained by this process, and we can look forward to seeing you next time when Dr. Hovind and I continue our polite, courteous discussion about potential examples of weird fringe exceptions to his general rule, because I have lots more. Um, there you go. Thanks, everybody.
Have you shown me? Have we seen it happen? Imagining your arm dissolving is not seeing this happen and these cells becoming. So your best example that you gave finally after an hour and a half was cancer.
You're saying and you got your dog example too, but yeah, I mean the two examples of cancer that are backed up by that scientific research and also backed up by the fact that you agreed that those things would qualify as different kinds. Yeah, those. I mean, I think we did. You know, sir, I look forward to talking to you some more. I think you're a very good debater. I think we can make a lot of great content together. So I mean, I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too.
And I hope you all did as well. And so the obligatory, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's a very small channel at this time, but hopefully if people like this sort of annotation and hearing my internal thoughts as we go through these things, and I'll make more videos of them. Or if you guys just want to see the gut punches and the fireworks, then let me know what kind of content you like. Do you like this longer version, or do you want the short, quick hits? I look forward to hearing from you.